You know, when you're investing in yourself, it's not just an investment in yourself. It's also an investment in your family.
A person's wealth is determined by their assets, investments, and things that they own. I say true wealth is about how you live it. Your girl is back. Welcome to season 2 of Wealth Within Reach. Welcome to another episode of Wealth Within Reach, and I'm excited to talk about the conversation we are talking about today. But first, if you have not already, be sure to like and subscribe to this episode. And also, if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, leave me a review, okay? We prefer 5-star reviews, but leave me a review if this podcast has blessed you in any kind of way, okay? So today's conversation is really awesome because if you've been following me for a while, you know that I believe one of the most instrumental parts about investing in real estate is continuing to learn, continuing to invest in education to teach you about real estate. It is always changing, and it's important to make sure you're staying up to date with what's going on. And I don't know a better person than to invite to have this conversation about mentorship, about learning, than Gerald. We call him in the owning and living it community, Pastor Gerald Thompson. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Erica. I'm so happy to be here, so I appreciate the invite.
Thank you for being here. I know you aren't a pastor, but you're our pastor in the community.
I do have a pastor's heart, so yes. I've been told. So
he does. You do. Thanks so much for being here.
No problem.
Okay, you now are retired.
Yes.
And you are a real estate investor.
Yes.
You and your wife, your beautiful wife, Q. And, prior to investing, what was your life like? Have you always just loved real estate and been around and buying properties all over the place?
No, not at all. Prior to investing, I was working for the federal government, for the Social Security Administration. And it wasn't actually up until, and I've been doing that for, almost 30 years at that point. So, I was raising my 5 stair-steppers at home. And then I met my current wife, Q, who you just mentioned a minute ago. And when we met, one of the things that we talked about on our first date was investing in real estate.
I love that.
And she mentioned that she had been following a few people on, some podcasts and then a few YouTube videos. And so that kind of sparked my interest.
Love it.
So after the date, I went home and I said, hey, I knew I always wanted to invest in real estate at some point, but just didn't know when. But after that date with her, I said, hey, I started going home and looking at my little books and trying to see what I could learn so that we could have something to further the conversation. So
I love that.
That's how I got started.
And you have probably either, read like so many books and just follow so much good information. And where did that love of learning come from for you?
Oh man, let me see where it started. I was raised by my grandmother. She finished school with a 6th grade education. She had 5 kids of her own, my father included. And her biggest thing for us, she raised me and my 2 sisters, was just go to school and get a good education. Yeah. And her whole desire was that we would just graduate from high school.
Wow.
My father and his siblings, none of them actually graduated with a diploma. They, most of them got GEDs. And so her whole thing was just go to school, learn as much as you can. And, I'm not going to lie, I was a knucklehead back then. I loved school when I was young.
You say that, but I don't know if I believe you.
Well, I loved school. I did well in school until I got a little bit older. And I don't know about today, but back then, kids was kind of cruel.
Yeah.
We were growing up public assistants, so we didn't have a lot. So I didn't fit in with the normal crowd. So at some point, things kind of took a turn, And when I got to, I would say, my 2nd year of high school, I started to rebel a little bit, from school and from education. I guess later on, my grandmother, she was so heartbroken. I went from a straight A student to almost failing out of high school.
Yeah.
And then I signed up for the military, for the Marine Corps, and that was my way out. But in order to go, I had to finish, and I had to get my high school diploma.
Nice.
From there, once I got my diploma, got into the military, I started hanging around different people who had gone to college, things that we never talked about back in Detroit on the block.
Right.
And that piqued my interest because I always liked learning, but just kind of like,
Yeah.
I'm smart enough. Will I make it? Will I do okay?
Yeah.
And then I looked into some programs in the military that would pay for school. And so one of them was a leadership development program. So I went on ahead and applied for that. I got selected for that.
Nice.
And then I wound up enrolling in college, at Savannah State.
Wow, that's so good. That's
yeah.
amazing. And I love that because, especially specifically when you said I got around a different group of people.
Yes.
And the group of people that you were around really began to influence your
Absolutely.
mindset.
Absolutely.
Which, if you don't hear me say anything, I am going to say how much your environment really does influence like what you think and what you believe. And that's so important. And so you went to college and all of that, and you fell in love with education. And so now, fast forward, you guys are thinking about investing in real estate. We have both a love for learning, specifically around self-education.
Yes.
I did not major in real estate in college, right?
Okay.
And a lot of the real estate that I first learned was self-taught through books and through podcasts and things like that.
Same here.
I have really loved seeing your journey of doing that as well, and really leveraging all of the information and all of the stuff that you have out there to like get started. At one point, did you make the shift from, okay, I am making a shift from podcasts and, reading books to now I'm going to go from that to webinars and to mentorship? When did you make that shift? Okay. And what was that? What was that like? And why did you make that shift? Are you tired of wasting so much time pulling data, reviewing comps, and trying to put together the financing to do your next deal? Guess what? You don't have to do all that. Backflip helps you to analyze properties instantly, helps you to pull high quality comps. You can actually apply for loans directly through the app while also choosing your best investment strategy. All you have to do is download the free Backflip app now and go on your way to make smarter, faster, and more profitable decisions today.
Well, let me back up a little bit because I'll tell you about where I got the passion to read, to start reading a lot of their books. So my first year of school, I met this, I'm going to call him a historian, this older Black gentleman. His name was W.W. Law, and he was speaking during Black History Month. And I'm sitting out there in the crowd and I'm listening to him, and he said something about after giving his speech, I raised my hand. I had a Q&A, and I said, hey, have you written any books or anything like that? And he says, no, I haven't. And I asked him why not. So when I talked to him one-on-one, he said, well, the secret that's going around, or the rumor, is that if you don't want Black people to know anything, write it down.
Wow.
And that started my journey, in wanting to read. So that opened up a whole, from that point on, I was hooked.
You were like, I'm gonna read.
Exactly.
Wow.
So then, I started reading a lot. My major in undergrad was business. And we had one of the professors who would keep the students after class, and he would teach them, this was the school after the school, about investing, and he would talk about things like investing in stocks, investing in real estate, and things of that nature. And going all the way back, one of the seeds that my great-grandmother and great-grandfather planted in me, I worked for him when I was 8 years old. He retired from Chrysler, and I worked on a fish truck.
Wow.
And so she would take me to the bank. She opened up my first bank account, and that was my intro to investing. That $25 a week, who knew it would turn into what it is today?
Who knew? Wow.
And she said, when you get older, you got to do like the white folks do. Get you one of them IRAs and all of this stuff.
I love it.
And so as I got older, even when I went into the military before school, I was one of the youngest guys investing in. I had a retirement account. I had an RA account at 19 years old.
Wow.
And a lot of my buddies was looking at me like I was like, wait a minute, you open up a what?
Yeah.
A retirement?
What is a what? What is a? Why are you worried about that? That's far away from now.
Absolutely. So at some point, when there was seminars, when a lot of the different seminars are started, I remember going to see Robert Kiyosaki and Donald Trump when they were still into real estate.
Yeah.
So that was the beginning of my intro into, man, look at these guys, And then later, as I started, after I met Q, I went from reading a lot of books and listening to podcasts,
Yeah.
and I heard you on a podcast on Bigger Pockets.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, who is Erica B? I got on the phone and started trying to call your office, trying to contact, and they mentioned you was starting a mentoring program. So that was really like the first intro, about 2 years ago into wanting to do something face-to-face or get involved with a community of investors. So you were the first person, that I reached out to and participated in the cohort.
So even thinking about that, there was this love of learning, and so you started investing when in IRA and stocks when you were like 19, and you kept learning, and then you attended a seminar. There's a time period of you desired to invest in real estate, but there was it was a while. It took a while.
It was going to be something. It was going to be something I was going to look into once I retired. So I knew at some point I wanted to do it. Yeah. But I said, well, I'll look into that. Yeah. Right now, I'm just going to worry about my 401k and just invest in stocks, And then once I retire, I'll look more because I have more time to kind of research the real estate investment world. But it started a little bit sooner than that. So.
Yeah. So then, how has going from, really taking in information to then being like proactive and actually finding a mentor, how did that actually change your trajectory of like decisions? Like, did that help you actually pull the trigger? Like, what was that like?
Yeah. One of the biggest things I got out of the cohort, me and Q, was to actually, you use this phrase, get into the room, And so once we had gotten into the room with other like-minded individuals who were also invested in real estate and who were successful at it, just listening in on the conversations, just learning, about what they had done and how they had gotten started, it really, really was a big encouragement for us to say, wow, you know what, we can do this.
Right.
And that's what sparked my interest into wanting to move forward.
To want to take actions. Because let's just think about the comparison. You have Robert Kiyosaki and Donald Trump, and then you have, Erica Brown, me, and these other people. From a observation standpoint, it took you seeing someone that looked like you to pull the trigger. Why?
Yeah. Well, unfortunately in our community, we just don't have a lot of folks, and that's the problem with education. A lot of folks are not teaching that looks like us. Yeah. So, even though I was going early on to the Donald Trumps, and that was way up here, if you will. Yeah. But when I got into the room with you guys to see people who actually look like me,
doing everyday jobs,
everyday job, very down to easy to talk to, easy to communicate with. It was a whole different experience. Something that I had not been used to and had not been exposed to.
No, that's good. That's good. So there are people out here, they're on the train with you. They're like, okay, I get it. I've been reading the books. I've been listening to the podcast. I've went to Grant Cardone's seminars. They've seen that, and they recognize that they do want some community, and they are ready to consider mentorship. I know that you not only you have invested in mentorship for me, but you have, man, I love that you are always at conferences and you are always on some webinar. And I'm like, tell me what you learned, Gerald. You have really developed a love for learning. So if you have someone that's here, they're trying to find a mentor, how do they determine? It's like Instagram is so noisy, and it's really hard to find who's real, who's fake, who's not. How does a person find a mentor that they can actually learn from?
Personally, I think it starts with word of mouth. Yeah. I think it starts with looking for people within your particular community, talking to people. Hey, do you know anyone? I'm interested in doing this. Do you know anyone who's already doing that or who has done that? I think for me, I've been blessed to have some good experiences in, particularly with you and that whole community. Yes. So I'm not only one who likes to learn, but I like to teach and I like to share. Yes. So when I'm learning something, I'm like, hey, I learned this. Erica was talking about this today. So a lot of it is just taking what you've learned and then just passing it on to other folks. Yes. And so I know that when I'm able to do that, it kind of opens up people, because I remember when we got ready to start the mastermind, I was telling folks about you, and then people just, that word of mouth, it travels.
It
people,
does.
They trust you. So they may not know you or may not have known you personally, but they knew me.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of it is word of mouth. Looking at some of the free resources that people offer. I mean, unfortunately, you may have to start with social media.
Yeah.
I'm not real big on
Yes.
a big
Yeah.
proponent. I'm more of a community person who knows that person
Yeah.
or who
Figure out
knows
who you
about that
connect
person.
with,
Exactly.
who you kind of like maybe have some similarities in their story too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. And so once someone finds a possible mentor, whether it's a program or it's maybe someone that they know within their network, what are some questions that they should ask to figure out if this is the right person?
Of course, it's like every individual is different.
Yes.
So you have to know what your goals are
Yes.
personally. You have to see whether or not that person's values and goals align with your own. That's very important.
That's very important.
You want someone who has integrity.
Mm.
Unfortunately, that's sometimes hard to come by.
Yes.
You definitely want someone who has done what you're trying to do.
That part.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people out here,
professing
they buy
to be
one property and they're like, I'm out here teaching everybody. And I'm like, girl.
Absolutely. Yeah. You want someone who's been where you're trying to go.
Yeah.
And I always say, and this is something I see happening when people are trying to select a mentor, don't necessarily try to get the person who's way up here.
Yeah.
And you're just getting started down here. Try to find that person who can speak to whatever that next level, or who can help you establish that foundation. Start there. Yes. So you want that. You want someone who's candid, who's going to be honest with you. And you definitely want someone who is, a good communicator and a good listener. They really have your best interest at heart and they have a teacher's heart. And that's something that I know that you definitely,
I appreciate
definitely have. So.
No, I have really enjoyed working with you and our group and our clients. And I mean, we end up becoming friends.
Yeah,
like we
absolutely.
really do. We
like
have the best time. We are a family. And it's so beautiful to like just be able to experience all these different people from different parts of the US backgrounds coming together, just really like supporting one each other. And we want to see each other win.
Yes.
That's what the foundation of it is. So, okay. So I know that you have, and we're not going to share any names, but I know that you've experienced the good and the bad, with different programs and stuff. Can you give me an example of a program or webinar or something like that you experienced that actually didn't work out that well, and maybe some red flags that people can like look out for in the future to be able to avoid, working with people, certain people?
Definitely. And I'm not one who likes to, I'm not a negative person.
No, you're not.
But I definitely love to give constructive feedback.
Yeah.
So, there's been some things or some programs that I've seen out there or been involved with where I would say, maybe the communication or the patience wasn't there. So if you're going to be doing something like mentoring or teaching other people, you definitely want to have the patience for it.
Yes. Especially if you're working with some people who are new and they're getting started.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm also, be leery when people are talking about taking shortcuts or, doing this.
It's a long game.
It is definitely a long game.
Yeah.
So that goes back to what we talked about earlier. You want someone that has integrity, someone who's not going to steer you down the wrong path, if you will.
Right.
So that would be a red flag to me, just kind of listening, watching what they do, and then watching what they tell you or try to teach you to do. So
that's good.
Unfortunately, there's good and bad, but that's with anything.
So, okay, no, that's good because what happens is they make it hard for people like me.
Absolutely.
Who are actually doing this because we feel called and we have a high integrity. Like when you work with me and you decide to invest in one of my programs, I take it personal to help you to accomplish what you're trying to do, right? Like I don't necessarily need to do this.
Right,
I've decided to do this because I feel like guys like naturally called me to be a person to share, and I want to see, more of my people win, And so I found though some people where we connect and I can see how my mentorship can really help them, but because they've been in a situation before where they've been taken advantage of or scammed or the person didn't have integrity, it makes it so fearful for people to invest in education and then that ends up leaving them in a place that they're stuck, right? So what would you say to that person who potentially maybe has like lost money
Mm-hmm.
from working with the wrong person,
Mm-hmm.
what would you say to that person?
Well, I mean, one of the things is just like in a relationship,
Yeah.
if you've been in a bad relationship, sometimes we have a tendency to kind of color everyone through that same lens, if you will.
Mm.
So one of the things I've learned in life, and I haven't gone through some of those experiences, you have to take each person that they're married.
Mm.
I mean, just because one person may not have been a good fit and may have
Right.
done something to take advantage of you or take you for granted, I say take each person at their own merit. Don't be afraid. I know it's scary,
Yeah.
but I try to treat each individual as an individual.
Yes.
Not let what one bad apple has
Yes.
done spoil it for the rest.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that would be my thing. Is I would encourage you to just, hey, okay, I got burned this time. What did you learn? What did you take away from that experience?
Yes.
Use that, and yes, you may be a little bit more cautious, which
Yes.
you should be.
Yes.
No one wants to be out there and having people take advantage of them.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say use that caution, but don't let it paralyze you.
Exactly.
Don't let it stop you from moving forward, because
Yeah.
there are some good folks out there like yourself. So
they are, and I've been in
Yeah.
a situation myself personally where I invested a lot of money in
Mhm.
something and it didn't turn out the way it was supposed to turn out.
Absolutely.
And I learned from that.
Yeah.
One, I took the information that I did have and I committed to try to get the best return on investment that I could.
Absolutely.
And then after that, it allowed me to learn how to choose the next person in a better way moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yeah.
think that's really important.
There's a phrase in the, I know you mentioned Pastor Gerald.
Yes.
So, they talk about Paul, who says, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yes.
I would say from every experience, good or bad, there's
Yes.
always a lesson to
Yes.
be learned. And so even though the entire experience may not have been what you thought it was
Yeah.
and what you had originally signed up for, I would say still take what you could learn from that experience.
Right.
Because it may not have been all bad.
Mhm.
And that's what I tried to do. I tried to take a bad situation
Mhm.
and, make the best out of it, and just take those things that were helpful
Yep.
and utilize those things. And then
Yes.
the other things I just kind of
Yes,
push to the
exactly.
side. So.
And that's what we talk about in the community, is that we don't look at failures as failures. We look
Right.
at failures as lessons.
Absolutely.
What can I learn from this and how can I do things differently? That's so good. I want you to talk to the person. They've been wanting to invest in real estate for a really long time. How does a person know if they should invest in a mentor? What are some signs that they may need to invest in education?
Well, I believe in investing in other people. I believe that you're more successful when you do have a community. No
Mhm.
one is an island
Yes.
to themselves. No one knows all the answers. And one of the things that we talk about in our community, you don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't
So
know.
that's a big thing right there. I think the more folks that you're able to get in the room with and have, so I think, you're able to pick up gems from this person. This other person may have other gems
Yep.
or other experiences. So I think mentor is critical. I mean,
Yeah.
out of the 35 years I've been working for the federal government, I've been mentoring as a formal or informal mentor. And one of the first things I tell people who are interested in going to whatever the next level is, whether it be in their career, whether it be get a mentor.
Yes, because they really can help
Yeah.
you like fast track.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
In a big way.
That's probably one of the most important, outside of investing in yourself, the
Mhm.
next most important investment you can make is in a mentor.
Because you've been around for a minute. You're OG at this point. you're owning
So
and
you
living
an
OG.
LT, tell me.
Yeah, you're owning and living OG. You've been around since like, I don't know, cohort 2. It's been a minute. How has my mentorship impacted you in your real estate journey and just life in general?
I mean, it goes back to what I said to you earlier.
Yeah.
It started off as mentoring. I mean, I didn't, just like anyone else coming into the cohort, we
Yeah.
didn't really know each other.
Yeah.
But over the years, I mean, I've been kind of a ride or die with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It has literally morphed into not just a community, but for me, into family.
That's good.
I'm around a lot of folks,
Yeah.
within our community that we care about each other.
Yes.
We talk about more than just, it's just not
Yes.
just about real estate. I mean,
Exactly.
we've talked about so many things over
So
the
many
years.
things.
And it's one of the things that Q and I look forward to, the retreats. I mean,
Yes.
where do I start? But it is literally like coming together around family,
Yeah.
especially when I bring her out. She loves
Yeah.
it. And we always walk away feeling refreshed, feeling
Yes.
like we were able to pour into people and people were able to pour into us.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
and then making those new connections, those new relationships. I mean, they're there for a lifetime, priceless. You can't put a dollar amount on that.
Yes, absolutely.
You know?
So good. Like our time together it's wealthy.
Absolutely.
Like the time together. The first investment you made into the group coaching program, and then you left and you went off and start working on your investment, like buying your next investment property. This was an example to me on like why it's so important to have mentorship, because you were receiving, you know, deals from your real estate agent. But then talk to me about that. How were you able to leverage what you learned in your mentorship to help you get that first investment property? Okay. And why was that so important?
Well, I think during the first cohort that we were in, you really helped lay that foundation.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of the things that, even though I had been reading books and following different, you know, podcasts and things of that nature, you really were able to lay down a foundation, you know, and kind of, you know, make it real for me, if you will, you know. And so from there, I really learned how, you know, to analyze the deals.
Yes.
Look at the numbers. So when I was getting calls and offers, that was really helpful, because there was some deals being offered to me that weren't going to cash flow.
Yeah.
And I kept saying, well, wait a minute. Erica said, you know, and then
you have to factor in this and
right,
this and
right,
this.
Exactly. And they were leaving out of, you know, because one of the things in real estate, cash flow is just not about, you know, what you have left over after you pay the mortgage and the taxes and insurance. You have other expenses that you have to account for. And that was something I learned from you. So that was very critical. I think I avoided a lot of bad deals, you know, based on the information that I picked up from you in that first cohort.
Yes, because when you first start learning about investing in real estate, and now you're ready to go and get your first deal, you're going to have a lot of different people sending you information. And I mean, I know wholesalers do this. When you when you're like on the wholesalers list, and then, you know, these are people that are just sending out deals all day. They tell you, okay, here's the ARV and here's the cash flow, and here, and I hear investors just say, okay, should I just take their information and like run with it? And I'm like, no, you will own the property.
Absolutely.
Your name will be on the mortgage deed. Okay.
Absolutely.
So that means you're responsible for it. And that means that you need to run the numbers to make sure that it actually works.
Yes.
Because a lot of times you're relying off of faith, off of the lack thereof experience of the person who's giving you the deal. So it's important for you to know those numbers.
And I think not only just that too, I think with, you know, the programs that you were offering that I got a chance to participate in, you help people figure out what their individual goal is, because it's one thing to want to invest in real estate, but what works specifically for you? Where are you at in your journey? Where are you at in life in general? And then how does that fit into what your overall investment goals are as far as real estate is concerned? Because sometimes, you know, when people don't know what your goal, they'll send you just getting, so going through the cohort, going through the mentoring program helped me weed out a lot of that stuff. Like, this doesn't fit what my goals are. This doesn't fit, you know, so that was helpful.
No, that's so good, because we talk about that a lot. And that's an ongoing conversation. Like we were just on our call recently, and I was like, okay, what are you guys' goals? And okay, this next move that you need to make, does it align with your goals? And let's get to a place where the decisions that you guys are making, that like we always bring it back. We always bring it back, because once your eyes are open, and now you know about all these things, oh my gosh, you're gonna be thinking about doing everything.
Absolutely.
And it's gonna be hard to figure out what to do first. The mentor can help you really narrow down your path, so you know exactly what your next step should be. So it's really great. Okay, so I want to talk about price versus value, because I have free resources. I have this podcast that's free. I give a lot of content on social media. Even on my website, I have a resource library, and we have like tons of free workshops and checklists and stuff like that. So my goal has always been to allow building wealth to be accessible. But when you do decide that you want to work with me, I am not the cheapest. Right. And I'm not the cheapest, though, because I really do provide a unique experience, and that comes with the cost. And on top of that, the information that I'm giving you literally can help you make millions, like literally. Right. And so sometimes people look at mentorship or the access to mentorship based on price versus value,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so you think about, okay, you hire, I don't know, a consultant to do something, and they tell you, okay, I'll charge $100 an hour. That's
Mm-hmm.
not how I charge,
Mm-hmm.
right? My programs are, the charges, the fees are based off of the value that it
Absolutely.
brings, not the price,
Right.
right? And so, and I know people invest at different levels. And I
Mm-hmm.
always say, like, I don't need you coming here telling me, Erica, I have this big dream. I want to be a millionaire. I want to own this compound. I want to have this subdivision. I want to do all this kind of stuff. But you are afraid to pay $900 for a workshop or for whatever the thing is, right? You have to invest to the level of transformation that you desire.
Right.
Right.
Right. Absolutely.
So talk to me about, how did you get over like actually investing money into education, and what's the right, is there a sweet spot? How do you determine what this person is offered is value, what they're asking?
Man, that's a lot to digest.
It is. It is.
One of the things I learned early on in life, again, these life lessons, and it's funny. This is a story about a time I went to a dry cleaners, and I remember trying to get, always trying to get a discount. Always trying to get something for nothing, if you will. And I remember the dry cleaner owner telling me, she says, she didn't give me the discount, and she says, hey, we put a lot of effort and a lot of work into your clothes.
Yeah.
You get what you pay for. And so that kind of said, wow, always trying to worry about what the cost of something is versus what the value is in something.
That's good.
And when she mentioned how well they do as far as taking care of the clothing, how they clean it and all this, I understood. I started to differentiate between investing and cost,
right,
or the price of something.
Right.
So as far as investing and fast forward into the real estate thing, you talk about someone who has spent thousands and thousands of dollars in my own personal growth and development. You can't put a price on value.
Yeah. No, you can't.
And unfortunately, I think a lot of that stems from a scarcity mindset. When opportunity presents itself, the first thing we want to know, even when I'm coaching people financially, how much it costs. And it's funny because you don't ask that when you're out there blowing money or spending whatever someone else is asking for. Let me tell you,
we both got kids, right?
Yes, absolutely.
When those kids need something,
yes,
we're going to come through.
Absolutely.
We're going to do whatever we need to do.
Absolutely.
To get whatever those kids need.
Absolutely.
How come we don't invest in ourselves like that?
And I think it's one of those things, going back to education. It's just something that we have not been taught. We have this mentality, what can I get for, and it's sad. I think once people start to educate themselves and get around other, again, like-minded individuals who have made investments within themselves and who have gotten the value out of whatever it is that they pay. Again, there's no dollar figure on value.
Yes.
So now I tell people, even when they say, well, how much does it cost? And I say, well, how much are you willing to invest?
That's good.
Yeah. What are you willing to invest in yourself?
And you know what I think also, Gerald, that I think I want to speak to, because you do this so well. Not only do you swipe the credit card during the emotional moment of wanting to say yes, right? You swipe the credit card, but you show up.
Yeah, absolutely.
You show up and do the work.
Right.
Because sometimes we can invest, but then later on we allow life circumstances to get in the way.
Right.
Like, talk to me about that. Like, what made you say, okay, you know what? I'm going to show up. Life is too short and I'm going to do the work.
So I want to go back and talk about value for a second. When you're investing in yourself, it's not just an investment in yourself. It's also an investment in your family. You mentioned we both have kids. So one of the things I look at when I'm making these kind of investments and learning how to invest in real estate, these are things that can be passed down from generation to generation.
Yes.
And, one of the things about education is people can't take it away from you.
Nope. Nope.
So I look at the long term, and I look at, long-term effect, the long-term impact that it can have on you and many generations to come. And again, when you look at it from that perspective, you really, there's no dollar amount that you can put into this. So when I'm investing, whether it be with you or with other folks, I'm looking at what impact is this going to have, not only on my well-being, but on the well-being of my family.
Yes.
And because I'm a learner by,
Yes.
a lifelong learner, I'm also a lifelong teacher.
Yes.
So not just my family, but my friends and
Yes.
anyone else
Yes.
who has an ear to listen.
Yeah.
I'm willing to share whatever it is that I've learned. So
I love that.
Again, priceless.
Priceless. So priceless. So priceless. When you actually make the investment, like how do you show up and do the work even when it gets hard?
Discipline. If I had to say it in a word.
I would say, and accountability.
And accountability, absolutely, yeah. You have to have that self-discipline.
Yes.
And then you have to have those accountability partners out there who's going to hold your feet to the fire.
Yes.
That comes from one, good mentoring, but it also comes from people within the community.
Yeah. So talk about the accountability. We actually have an accountability group. It's a peer-led accountability group within the mastermind.
Yes.
So you guys meet outside of the times that we meet. And how has that been helpful for you? And even this year, like this future journey?
And it's funny because we just had an accountability call last week.
Oh, okay.
It's good because it allows you to, again, regardless of where you are in your investment journey, I mean, everybody's not on their A game every day.
No.
So sometimes you need to hear from those other folks within the group to kind of encourage you or, motivate you, if you will, and hold your feet to the fire. Hey, Gerald, where are you at? I know the last time we talked, Erica had you doing this. Where are you at in your own work?
Yes.
So it's been good. And then to be able to share and, pour into the group as well.
Yeah.
So it's a give and take type thing.
Yeah. I love that.
So, but I mean, again, and it goes beyond real estate. I mean, it's life.
It's life.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like we be having real life conversations.
Yes, absolutely.
And, a lot of us, we're in circumstances and situations where we don't have that like safe place to really, have these type of conversations with our friends. Like, if we go and tell our friends about the tenant, being late and potentially having to evict them, what they're going to say? They're going to be like, ooh, see, I told you. See, I'm not trying to do that. But if you come into the accountability group or in our group and you say that this, your tenant's not paying the rent, we're offering you some solutions.
Absolutely.
Encouragement, all the things. And I think that's why it's really important. Like your environment really matters.
Absolutely. I agree.
Outside of the accountability, the discipline, I try to like describe what the experience is like when we're all together in person. You've been to multiple retreats. You're now in the mastermind. And with the mastermind, we have 2 retreats a year. And we try to see each other if we can in between that. How is it different going from online behind the computer to in person? Is there any way you can just describe the moment or even just give me some examples of some like your favorite moments in person in the community?
Oh man, again, where do I start? I mean, it's nothing like the face-to-face. I wouldn't trade that for anything in the world. It's just a good feeling when you come around and you get to hug somebody's neck, see people you haven't seen in a while. It's literally like a family reunion, if I had to describe that experience. There's good fellowship, there's good camaraderie. We talk about real estate, but then we talk about other things going on in each other's lives. We cry together, we laugh together. So it's a different thing. When you're looking at someone via, a video or computer, than when you're touching shoulder to shoulders and getting to know each other on that level. Like I've got a chance to meet your kids and your husband.
Oh yeah,
and
they all
that.
know you too.
Right. We last retreat, I think we let our hair down. The little hair I have, but and we got to dance and just get out there and have a good time. Your staff, I mean, they're just so accommodating, So it's really a good time, man. That's one of the biggest things we look forward to.
Speaking of that, one of my goals when I'm providing these spaces, whether it's retreat, whether it's conferences, I know a lot of us that are coming to these places, we are very much like the pioneers of our families. We are like the ones who are, we're the first ones in our family that's investing. We're the first one doing something. We're having to pull so many people with us. We're having to hold so much in our, baggage and just all the things. I intentionally try to create environments with myself and my team where you just come and you don't have to think about nothing. Like you just come and things are taken care of for you.
Absolutely.
How does that feel? Because you carry a lot. Before you got married, you were a single dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so how does it feel to come into those spaces and things are taken care of for you
Mhm.
as a person who generally has to hold a lot?
It's a big relief. You know, one of the things I did not mention, you know, when we come into those spaces,
Yeah.
is that, I mean, you're such a down to earth person. Let me start there.
Aw.
But immediately when Q and I show up, we're at ease.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's snacks laid out for
Yeah.
us, water bottles laid out for,
Yeah.
so you know we can get up and go to the room, get up in the middle of the night. I know I'm telling on myself now, and go raid the candy dish, you know. But
Yeah.
it is nice to get away from the kids, to get away from, you know, as you know, Q's in the
Day to
military,
day. Yep.
to get away from, you know, the military, her day-to-day routine, and just go somewhere where everything is, like you said, just kind of laid out for you.
Yeah.
But one of the biggest things and one of the biggest benefits, you know, and I love this even with my wife, she's not kind of she's more introverted,
Yeah.
you know, but when she comes around you guys, she has a tendency to speak up, to speak out.
And we're asking her too. We're like, hey, Q, what do you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I was going to say it's one of those, and I've been to a lot of different seminars, and I don't get this from every place that I've traveled, but when I come, you know, with the group and we go to the retreats and everything, it's authentic and it's a safe space where people can really, regardless of what your background is, you don't feel out of place. You know, you come and you feel like you're at home and you're in a safe space around family and friends who love you.
Yeah.
And I have to emphasize that because not everybody, family and friends, are like that.
Yeah.
But when we come in those spaces, we feel loved.
Yeah.
We feel welcomed. It's warm, you know, and hopefully we try to impart that as well, you know, to the folks that we're around.
I love that. That is absolutely the goal. We try to think through things for you, and then we also try to help you see yourself in, you know, the environment.
Yeah. I like too when you guys do the panels during the Q&A discussions, because it's also not only a place where you feel safe, but where you can be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I know in our day and age, that's kind of a taboo.
It's really hard.
People don't want to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Everyone's kind of guarded up.
Yeah.
But there you can be vulnerable. You can relax. You can let your hair down, and you can just be yourself, and know that you're going to be loved and accepted.
Yes. Yes.
So,
regardless.
Yes.
Let me emphasize that.
Yes. Regardless of where you are in your journey.
Yes.
As far as investment goes, but yes.
I am on a mission to help minorities see the value in having access to a team of professionals that can help guide them to accomplish whatever they need to accomplish, right? And that the first thing we look at is not the price, but it's actually, like you mentioned earlier, how can this person provide value,
right,
or whatever. And so I just want to emphasize that is so important. Talk to me about, outside of having a real estate mentor, what are some of the other key kind of roles or mentors in your life that you have gained over the years, whether you have a CPA, you have a financial, like what are the roles that you're kind of building on your like wealth building team that you've also gained over the years?
You know, of course, I work with different agents now that I've been investing.
Yes.
Working now with property management group. I have a property management group that manages the properties that one of the properties that we have out in St. Louis.
Yep.
So that's all new. You know, I've been exposed to CPAs, and so I know once we reach a certain level, you know, we have contacts and information of, you know, once we get to that level, we'll start utilizing those services. You already know I'm a licensed attorney, so, you know, I look at things too from a legal standpoint, and from an estate planning standpoint, like how does our real estate fit into our, you know, our estate planning process. So, but yeah, it's just, we've been exposed to so many different people that we've had on the mastermind calls, on the expert calls. So I've reached out to one of the young ladies you had, and I was able to download her financial spreadsheet.
My CFO.
Yes, absolutely. So it's been a number of services that we've utilized,
Yes.
since we've been participating in the mastermind.
I love that you say that because, a mentor is just one part of
Yes,
your
just
team.
one. Yep.
You're going to eventually have a different team that you have work with experts with different functions to help you ultimately accomplish your goal. And again, if you find yourself saying, recognizing that, okay, I do really well, but you have the DIY investor who actually, we don't realize that you could be holding yourself back from growing because you're trying to do everything yourself.
Absolutely.
And so I want to challenge you, if you are a person when you recognize, okay, I am actually holding myself back. I actually probably need to invest in help in this way. If your first inclination is how much does it cost, then that is an indication of I need to do some more mindset work. Whether that is I need to hire a mindset coach, I may need to talk to a therapist. I need to do something first to get me in a place where I can push through and see value first versus just price.
Well, I'll give you an example. Like how many years have you been, doing this coaching and involved in real estate investing?
I've been teaching others how to invest in real estate maybe like 4 years, maybe half of my journey investing.
So when I'm looking at value, I'm looking at, hey, how much time has this person spent doing this?
Yeah.
And I can trade this money for those years of experience, and it's really not costing me anything, because if I can gain what it took you, over 10 years to learn, over a 9-month,
wow,
how do you put a price on that?
Right.
Right. And I tell people that all the time, it's when you're thinking about, oh, it's going to cost me this, it's your time.
Yes.
What are you willing to invest in your time?
Yep.
Do you want to take and learn from someone who's already done it?
Yes.
Or do you want to have to try to figure it out and reinvent the wheel yourself?
And a lot of times when we're doing this is the biggest investment we are ever making in our lives. So why would we take hundreds of thousands of dollars? Why would we do that so loosely?
Right.
Without guidance?
Right.
We don't do anything at that magnitude else without guidance.
Absolutely.
So it's not uncommon to want to or need to invest in support to do that.
Yeah.
So that's really good. Okay. So final segment. We have a segment called Owning It and Living It segment. Okay. And so, a part of the Owning and Living It community, a part of my heartbeat for the community is I just believe in being able to invest and own things to be able to free me up to live my life and do what God has called me to do. Right. And that's the heartbeat of the community. What does owning it and living it look like for you?
It's pretty much, again, trading time for money. So as I'm learning more about investing in real estate, the goal ultimately is to build enough rental properties so that can free up my time to pursue other things that I'm passionate about in life. Time with the kids, ministry. I have a heart for teaching ministry. So that's ultimately is what I want to do is now, take whatever investments and whatever education I'm learning right now. And so that I'm going to have that free time to spend, again, pursuing those things. And real estate is one of the best vehicles to allow a person to do that. So
absolutely.
It's not completely passive, but it's close enough.
Yes. Absolutely. I love it. And living it to you, what are some like hobbies or just things that that you like to do to live it?
Of course, again, I'm a lifelong learner. So reading is one of my biggest reading is one of my biggest hobbies. Fellowshipping, building relationships with people.
Traveling, you did a lot of traveling this summer.
Exactly. Yep. Absolutely. Just getting up, going for walks in the morning,
Being able to decide to do what you want to do.
Absolutely. And when I want to do it.
Yes.
Absolutely.
That's exactly, that's my motivation right there.
Yes, absolutely.
I love it. And also, we didn't mention this, but I think it's also important for people to realize that when you are investing in education, mentorship programs, mastermind conferences, if you have a desire to do real estate and this is a part of like your researching, you can actually utilize those expenses as a write-off.
Absolutely.
Have you benefited from that?
Yes, I have.
Okay, talk to me
Definitely.
about that.
Oh my God. You're talking to the financial co-side of it now. Yes, I mean, it is the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Even when you're investing in stocks, you don't see the benefits or the tax write-off of benefits, but with real estate investment, I mean, you see immediately,
Yes.
whether it be through depreciation,
Yes.
whether it be writing off all the expenses,
Yes.
it's a business.
Yes.
And I think people forget that it's a business. So it's not just investing,
Mhm.
but it is an actual business. So if you have an entrepreneurial heart or spirit,
Yes.
I would say real estate investment is one of the best ways,
Absolutely.
to go. So
Absolutely. And even like if you are still working a 9 to 5
Yeah.
and you invest in conferences and the travel expenses, everything associated with it, you're going to be paying taxes one way or the other.
Right.
But the beautiful thing is though, if you start researching how to start a real estate business and you utilize these avenues to help you, you are able to actually get dollar for dollar of those expenses back.
Yes.
So I much rather invest in myself
Absolutely.
than to just invest in whatever and I have no idea where it goes to. Like you write those investments off dollar for dollar. So
that was a big plus for me this past tax year when I was still working.
Yes.
My 9 to 5 last year is that, like you said, a lot of the losses, a lot of the money that I invested into the different courses, even the property itself, I was able to offset my earned income against those losses. So
you got a nice refund. I heard.
Yes, I did.
I heard.
Absolutely.
So you invested in the mastermind and got it back the next year.
Absolutely.
I love it.
So it's an investment that also gives a return.
Yeah, that's
really and how many, and that's what you want in an investment.
Yes, yes.
You want a return on your money. So
absolutely. Thank you so much for being here.
You are so welcome.
I really appreciate it. Where can people connect with you outside of you being at the Owning and Living It Experience November 1st through 3rd? Where else can they connect with you?
Well, right now I'm preparing for the bar exam, as you know, in February. So all my social media is not up yet, but if you want to reach out, you can reach me by email at Gerald Real Estate Investor at gmail.com.
Love it.
I'm also on Instagram at Gerald Investor Coach. So those are two ways to connect with me right now.
Thank you so much for being here.
You're so welcome.
And thanks for listening to another episode of Wealth Within Reach. I will see you on the next one. Hey friend, have you been enjoying this podcast and you're like, okay, Erica, how can I connect with you and other of your amazing guests that are on the podcast? You can do that within the Owning It and Living It Facebook group. I have the Owning It and Living It Facebook group to help to foster community with other like-minded real estate investors. Folks are sharing advice, I'm sharing tips, and we're fostering community so we can help take our real estate investments to the next level. If you are ready to do that, I want you to join the Owning It and Living It Facebook group. You can go to the link in the bio to join today.